I stood in our kitchen at 7 in the morning, still wearing last night's dress. Mascara streaked down my face, staring at the empty ring box sitting on the counter. Not the ring, just the box. Derek had taken the ring back sometime between midnight and dawn, slipping it off my finger while I slept on the couch. I didn't even feel it happen. That's how numb I was. But what destroyed me wasn't the missing ring. It was the note he left beside the box, written in his steady, careful handwriting. 6 words. My sister was at the party, and just like that, my entire world collapsed. Let me go back to the beginning because you need to understand how I got here. How a woman who had everything a man who adored her, a wedding 3 months away, a future most people dream about, burned it all to the ground with her own mouth. Derek and I had been together for 4 years. He was the kind of man your mother prays you'll find. 34, civil engineer. Built our savings account like he built bridges carefully, methodically, with zero room for error. He cooked dinner every Thursday. He remembered my allergies, my shoe size, my mother's birthday. When my car broke down at 2 in the morning on a highway outside of Charlotte, he drove 40 minutes in the rain without a single complaint. That was Derek. Reliable, solid, present. And I repaid him by telling my friends he was the most boring man I'd ever been with. It started at my friend Jess's place. She'd thrown a little get-together, nothing fancy, just wine and gossip with her, Kayla, and Brianna. We called these our decompression nights. No men, no filters, no judgment. Except there was always judgment. We just aimed it at the men in our lives. 3 bottles of Pinot in. Kayla asked me how wedding planning was going. I should have said great. I should have said I couldn't wait. Instead, something dark and ugly crawled out of me. Something I'd been pushing down for months. Honestly, I said, swirling my glass, sometimes I wonder if I'm settling. The room went quiet for a beat, then Jess leaned in, eyes wide. Settling how? And that's when I opened the floodgates. I told them Derek was predictable, that he scheduled intimacy like a dentist appointment, that he kissed like he was afraid to mess up my lipstick. I told them that when we were in bed together, I sometimes closed my eyes and thought about Connor, my ex from college, the one who played lacrosse, and had the kind of confidence that made your knees buckle. I said Derek was like a reliable sedan you drive to work every day, and Connor was the convertible you take down the coast with the top down. They laughed. God, they laughed so hard. And I kept going because the laughter felt like applause. The worst part, I said, leaning back on the couch, is that Derek genuinely thinks he's great in bed. Like, sweetie, the bar was already on the floor and you brought a shovel. Jess nearly choked on her wine. Kayla was recording a TikTok of Brianna dancing and had to put her phone down because she was laughing so hard. And me? I was glowing. The center of attention, the funny one, the one with the juicy material. I told them that if Connor ever got his life together and showed up at my door, I'd probably leave Derek. Not probably, I corrected myself, laughing. Definitely. In a heartbeat. Derek is the emergency exit. Connor is the destination. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't find out until my entire life was in flames, was that Derek's younger sister, Megan, had come to drop off a dress she'd borrowed from Jess. She'd let herself in through the back door, heard my voice, and stood in the hallway listening to every single word. And she didn't just listen, she hit record on her phone. 2 days passed. Normal days, or so I thought. Derek texted me good morning, like always. We talked about the florist, the seating chart, whether his uncle could sit near my aunt without starting a political argument. Everything seemed fine. Then on Tuesday evening, Derek came home from work, and something was different. He didn't kiss me at the door. He didn't ask about my day. He sat down at the kitchen table, set his phone face down in front of him, and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, exactly. Something worse. Clarity. Sit down, he said. What's wrong? Did something happen at work? Sit down, Lauren. I sat. My stomach was already turning. He picked up his phone, unlocked it, and pressed play. My own voice filled the kitchen, slurred and giddy, saying things that made me want to crawl out of my skin. Derek is like a participation trophy. You get him for showing up, not for winning. Jess's cackle in the background. Then my voice again, louder now, more confident. Connor used to pick me up and carry me to the bedroom like I weighed nothing. Derek throws out his back, reaching for the remote. He paused it. The silence was deafening. Derek, There's more, he said. His voice was flat, controlled, like a man reading a weather report. He pressed play again. My voice, crystal clear, saying the thing that made my blood run cold. If Connor knocked on my door tomorrow, I swear on everything, I would pack a bag before Derek finished his morning coffee. That man doesn't even know what he's missing because he's never had it. You can't miss what you've never experienced. He stopped it, set the phone down, looked at me. Your words, he said. Your voice. Your friends laughing. Tears flooded my eyes. Derek, please. I was drunk. It was just stupid girl talk. I didn't mean any of. You called me a participation trophy. I was showing off. You know how it is when you're with your friends. You exaggerate. You say things you don't. You said you'd leave me for your ex without hesitation. You compared our intimate life to a chore. You told 4 women that I've never satisfied you. He leaned forward. Which part was the exaggeration, Lauren? The part where I'm boring or the part where you're already halfway out the door? I reached for his hand. He pulled it away. I love you, I said. And even to my own ears it sounded hollow. You love what I provide, he corrected. The house, the stability, the future. You just don't love me. That's not true. He stood up, pushed his chair back. I'm going to stay at my mom's for a few days. Don't call Megan. Don't try to spin this. I have the full recording. Megan? Your sister recorded me? She was at Jess's house. Heard everything. And before you blame her, she didn't want to tell me. She cried when she played it. She said she wished she hadn't heard it. But she loves me enough to not let me marry someone who thinks I'm a punchline. He grabbed his jacket, his keys, and walked out the front door. I stood there, shaking, replaying every vile word I'd said. The worst part was that I couldn't even claim Megan had taken it out of context. Every word was exactly what I'd meant in the moment. I just never meant for Derek to hear it. For 3 days, silence. I texted, I called, I left voicemails that started composed and ended in sobbing. Nothing. On the 4th day, I drove to his mother's house and knocked. His mom, Patricia, answered the door. She'd always been warm to me, always called me sweetheart. This time she looked at me like I was a stranger selling something she didn't want. He doesn't want to see you, Lauren. Patricia, please. I made a terrible mistake. I need to explain. Her jaw tightened. I heard the recording. My son played it for me because he needed someone to tell him he wasn't crazy for being devastated. Do you know what that was like? Hearing the woman he chose mock him like he's nothing? I started crying again. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo it. She closed the door. Gently. Somehow that was worse than a slam. Back home, I called Jess in a panic. She answered on the first ring. Megan recorded us, I said. Derek heard everything. A long pause. Everything? All of it. The participation trophy line, the Connor stuff, the bedroom jokes, all of it. Oh my God, Lauren. I need to fix this. You have to help me. Talk to Derek. Tell him it was just... Tell him what? That you didn't say those things? He has proof. Tell him we were just being stupid, that it doesn't mean anything. Another pause, longer this time. Lauren, I love you, but some of the things you said, they weren't jokes. You sounded like you meant them. That stung more than anything Derek had said to me. Over the next week, I spiraled. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work. My supervisor noticed and pulled me aside, asking if everything was okay. I lied and said I was dealing with a family emergency. Meanwhile, Derek's silence was crushing me. No response to any message, no indication of what he was thinking or planning. The not knowing was its own kind of torture. Then I did something unforgivable, something that makes what I said at Jess's house look like a compliment by comparison. I called Connor. I told myself it was just for comfort, just to hear a familiar voice, just to feel wanted for 5 minutes. But that was a lie, and I knew it. I called Connor because I was angry. Angry at Derek for making me feel like a monster. Angry at Megan for recording me. Angry at myself, mostly, but rage doesn't like to aim inward. It finds targets. Connor picked up immediately. Same voice, same lazy confidence. Lauren, been a while. Heard you're engaged. Was engaged, I said. It's complicated. Complicated how? He found out some things I said. Took it badly. Connor laughed. Sounds like he's soft. Real men don't crumble over words. Something about the way he said it dismissive. Cocky should have made me hang up. Instead, it made me lean in. We met for drinks that Friday at a rooftop bar downtown. He looked good, I won't lie. Tan, fit, that same smirk that used to make me forget my own name. We sat close, talked about old times, and after 2 cocktails, he put his hand on my knee. You always did deserve better than average, he said. I should have moved his hand. I should have gone home. Instead, I smiled and let the warmth of his attention fill the void Derek's silence had created. We didn't sleep together, but we might as well have, because someone was watching. Monday morning, a text from Derek. First one in 10 days. Saw you with Connor on Friday. The rooftop bar on 5th. You wore the blue dress I bought you for your birthday. My hands went numb. I typed back frantically. It wasn't what it looked like. We just talked. Nothing happened. His response came 30 seconds later. You told your friends you'd leave me for him. Then you went out with him while we're still engaged. What exactly do you think that looks like? I called him, straight to voicemail. I drove to his mother's house again. This time, Derek's car was in the driveway. I knocked. He opened the door himself. His eyes were red-rimmed, but his face was stone. Can I come in? No. Derek, please. Connor means nothing. I was lonely and stupid, and you were lonely. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting each word. You were lonely because I left, after hearing you destroy me, to your friends. So your solution to loneliness was to run to the exact man you said you'd leave me for. I didn't run to him. It was just drinks. In the dress I gave you. That detail hit me like a punch. I hadn't even thought about it when I got dressed that night. But he noticed. Of course he noticed. Derek noticed everything. I want the ring back, he said. Derek, no. We can work through this. Couples go through rough patches. We can do counseling. We can... The ring, Lauren. I stared at him through blurry tears. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life. You spent an entire evening telling your friends I'm not enough. Then you proved it by calling the man you said was better. You're not confused, Lauren. You're just sorry you got caught. Those words cracked something inside me. Not because they were cruel, but because they were true. Every apology I'd offered had been about managing the damage, not about genuine remorse. I'd been sorry I got caught, sorry Megan was there, sorry the recording existed. But had I been sorry for what I actually said? Had I looked at those words and truly felt the weight of how they'd landed on the man who loved me? Standing on that porch, I finally did. You're right, I whispered. You're right about all of it. He blinked, clearly not expecting that. I wasn't venting, I continued, voice cracking. I was performing. I wanted my friends to think I was too good for you, that I was doing you a favor by staying. And that's disgusting. You didn't deserve any of it. Not the comparisons, not the jokes, not Connor. None of it. Silence. The kind that fills every space between two people who know something is ending. I believe you mean that right now, he said quietly. But I don't trust it'll last. You said those things too easily, Lauren. Like you'd been thinking them for a long time and finally found an audience. I'll spend the rest of my life proving. No. He shook his head. You won't. Because I'm done. He held out his hand. I looked down at the ring. The princess-cut diamond he'd spent 4 months choosing because he wanted it to be perfect. Slowly, I twisted it off my finger and placed it in his palm. His fingers closed around it. I'm transferring to the Raleigh office, he said. I leave in 3 weeks. I've already told our friends. I'm not going to share the recording with anyone else. Your family won't hear it from me. Your boss won't hear it. Nobody will. I looked up, confused. Why? Because destroying you wouldn't make me feel better. It would just make me someone I don't want to be. He paused. And honestly, Lauren, you have to live with what you said. That's punishment enough. He stepped back inside and closed the door. I sat in my car in his mother's driveway for 45 minutes, crying so hard I couldn't see the steering wheel. Not because he was cruel, because he wasn't. Because even after everything I'd done, Derek's final act was mercy. And that mercy felt heavier than any revenge ever could. The weeks that followed were the loneliest of my life. The wedding was off, obviously. My mother called in tears, asking what happened. I told her we'd grown apart, which was the coward's version of the truth. She didn't push, but I could hear the disappointment in her silence. My father, a man of few words, sent a single text. I liked that boy. Hope you know what you're giving up. I did. God, I did. Jess tried to be supportive, but there was a distance now. She'd been there that night, laughing along, and we both knew it. Kayla stopped texting altogether. Brianna sent a long message about how everything happens for a reason, which is something people say when they don't want to admit that sometimes the reason is just that you were awful. I kept checking Derek's social media, even though every click felt like pressing on a bruise. 3 weeks after he left, he posted a photo from Raleigh. New apartment, new view, sunset over the skyline. The caption was simple. Fresh start. He looked calm. Not happy exactly, but lighter. Like a man who'd set down something heavy. I scrolled through the comments. His friends, his family, all wishing him well. Megan wrote, "Proud of you, big brother. No mention of me. No public drama. No leaked recordings." He'd kept his word. Connor, predictably, disappeared the moment he sensed actual commitment was required. He texted me once after the breakup. "So you're single now?" I didn't respond. Looking at his message, I felt nothing but revulsion, not at him, but at myself, for ever thinking he was the answer to anything. One night, alone in my apartment, I found a jacket of Derek's wedged behind the couch, a gray zip-up he wore on Sunday mornings while making pancakes. I held it to my face and breathed in. It still smelled like him coffee and cedar, and that drugstore body wash he refused to upgrade from because it works fine. I'd mocked that too, hadn't I? Called him basic, unrefined, a man with no flair. Sitting there with his jacket pressed against my chest, I finally understood what I'd lost. Not a backup plan, not a safety net, not a participation trophy. A man who loved me with every ordinary, imperfect, generous bone in his body. A man who drove through rainstorms at 2 a.m. A man who chose a ring for 4 months. A man whose last act of love was choosing not to hurt me back. I'd traded all of that for 10 minutes of laughter at a wine night. Months later, through a mutual acquaintance, I heard Derek was seeing someone. A woman named Claire, a teacher, quiet and kind. The acquaintance said Derek seemed happy. Genuinely happy, not the performed happiness of someone trying to prove a point. Just a man who'd found peace. I wish I could say I was happy for him. I wasn't. I was gutted. Not because he'd moved on, but because he'd moved on to someone who probably appreciated every single thing I'd mocked. Someone who didn't need the lights off. Someone who didn't close her eyes and imagine someone else. Someone who looked at Derek steady, dependable, present Derek and thought, I'm the luckiest woman alive. That could have been me. It should have been me. But I chose a punchline over a partner, and now the only person laughing is karma. Some nights, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, I replay that evening at Jess's house. I watch myself in my memory, wine glass in hand, leaning back with that smug grin, savoring every cruel word like candy. And I want to scream at that version of me. I want to grab her by the shoulders and say, shut up, shut your mouth right now. The man you're destroying is the best thing that will ever happen to you, and you're trading him for applause from women who won't even check on you in 6 months. But I can't go back. Nobody can. All I can do is sit with the wreckage and understand finally what Derek meant when he said living with my own words would be punishment enough. He was right. Every morning I wake up and those words are waiting for me. Every night they tuck me in. They are the first thing I hear in the silence, and the last thing I feel before sleep. I turned a good man into a memory and a lesson. And the lesson, the one I'll carry for the rest of my life, is this. The people who love you quietly, steadily, without fanfare, they are not boring. They are not safe choices. They are not backup plans. They are the rarest thing in the world. And if you're lucky enough to have one, you protect that with everything you've got. Because once they walk away, they don't come back. And they shouldn't have to.